Welcome back, everybody. It is a fresh new episode of the Wisemen podcast, powered by Yamo Media. Ty Fisher alongside Jerald Lucas, Edgar from News Across the Galaxy, and Bob from the Designated Pundits. Bet US MLS expert, MLS Cup preview. Fellas, how are we doing?
Bob, let you go first.
Doing great. Just happy to be here. I thought my podcasting career was going to be finished a few weeks ago. Happy to be here talking about it. And, I am very realistic about this, being a betting guy myself. But I know everyone is coming on the podcast to find out how, why, and what chance Red Bull has in this. So I've, kind of dug deep, found out some good information on a couple leads. I think if Red Bull are going to have a chance in this one, I think they do. I think the betting lines have already moved 40 points, plus 330 to now plus 292. So that Red Bull price is coming down a little bit, and I think that reflects a competitive atmosphere that I think we're going to see in this matchup. So, thanks for having me on. Hopefully I make a couple good points. Maybe I can sway a few opinions on this one. And in the end, it's all that East Coast love, right?
Of course. Edgar, how we doing, man?
A little bit of excitement, a little bit of trepidation. It's funny. I went from being like just absolute bliss and, tears of joy on my drive home from the stadium to waking up in the morning and seeing the news as they unfolded, and then just this dark pit in my stomach. But it's not all doom and gloom, I feel. And so right now, like I said, it's like this mix of excitement, but at the same time a sense of like a bit of fear. But that's always a good thing, right? You don't want to enter a competition where you're absolutely certain, yeah, I'm gonna walk out the winner, because you can't ever take the other team for granted, I feel.
Joe, my friend, it's been a while since we've had a show together. How have you been?
I've been all right. Still maintaining. Have to wait till January now.
Okay.
Still trying to process everything from the early exit, and then seeing the roster. End of year rosters and all that. So I mean, it's still processing, but hey, it's soccer, right?
Indeed it is. And Bob and Edgar have the right to kind of brag about how they got here to MLS. Bob more so since the crew lost to the Red Bulls. But starting with you, Bob, just how have you guys got here? I mean, the crew and you guys progress on through 2 games. Just talk about the run that you guys have made so far.
Yeah, so I think it started really with a season that did not live up to expectations in a few ways. We never really got that roster build together. We signed these new guys, Noah Ayla, who's been, outstanding young center back, not without mistakes, certainly not perfect, but, certainly a contributor, somebody you're going to hear about, somebody who's going to be sold for a very high price one day. And on the other end, we get a Red Bull veteran in Emil Forsberg in, being a number 10, that game changer. We were able to push Lewis Morgan up top, and then we had to pull him right back when Emil went down with injury. And it's really been the tale of 2 seasons. The team is 2 wins, 11 draws, and 7 losses when Emil Forsberg doesn't get a full 45 minutes in. And over the course of the season, what does that leave him? I'm trying to do the math really fast. 9, 3, and 5 when he is in the lineup. That's a huge change. And we didn't know that the team's identity was going to be taken over that quickly by such an important player. But then transfers came through. We were hoping for a striker, as many people did. We got a center defensive midfielder, which we didn't think we needed. Turns out that was wrong. We absolutely did. Carballo's an absolute game changer in the back of the field there, contributing a goal early a few weeks ago. And it's about being the best team on the field at any given point. And if you can do that, and if you can keep yourself in games, you can be really dangerous. And that's been Red Bull's MO all season long. They've lost to the Earthquakes, terrible, terrible teams, terrible matches. But they've also beaten multiple playoff teams. And, taking on Orlando only beat 2 playoff teams the whole season. So Red Bull's been able to play spoiler, which is a position they like to be in, like to, kick the crap out of those Ohio teams. Never bad. Although you're not the nemesis over there. It's your little brothers that get a little antsy, get a little under my skin sometimes. So, I think that. Yeah. 2 years ago, they were the best road team in Major League Soccer. Last year, they were very good. This year, we struck out and we hit a 7 seed, but it's only by 2 wins difference between us and third place. It's been weird. It's been wild, but we're here for it. And it's a scrappy little team. It's someone that no one should be taken for granted.
Edgar, obviously the Galaxy, looking for their 6th MLS Cup. Still the most decorated MLS franchise in the league, especially being an MLS original. How do you feel that you guys got here? Obviously, happy with the results, happy with the win against the Sounders recently. Just talk about how you guys got here as well.
It hasn't been easy. 12 months ago, we felt that the team was about to undergo like a major rebuild because after 10 years of having Chris Klein as general manager, making a lot of wayward decisions, a lot of decisions that look good because you brought in Zlatan, you brought in Chicharito, you brought in the Dos Santos brothers, and they sell kits, right? They bring butts to the stadium. But what else was going on with the team? They weren't competitive. There was very little depth there, and the team kind of hit rock bottom in 2020. They kind of struggled after that to find any kind of footing. They brought in Greg Vanney to try to rebuild things, and then at this point, fans were starting to get really sick of the whole stuff with Chris Klein. A lot of really dirty stuff, dirty laundry started getting aired out. Not going to mention anything here, but just a lot of stuff that made him a persona non grata with Galaxy fans. So then they staged a protest, right? I'm sure you guys heard about that. It's, I think, the second biggest protest since probably the Save Crew movement, Save the Crew movement. And I remember a lot of people felt that it was a waste of time. Like, why are you wasting your time? AEG, who owns the LA Galaxy and Shits Entertainment, they're not going to listen to you guys. Why are you wasting your time? So the fans protested, the supporters groups staged walkouts, and for the longest time it seemed like there was nothing was going to happen. There were meetings held between the front office and the supporters, and nobody wanted to budge. And then LA Galaxy got their teeth kicked in by Charlotte FC, and after that same night, Chris Klein was fired. And I remember when we finally got the news, it was incredible. It was momentous. It was like, wow, can you believe that they actually listened? They felt the pressure from the supporters. We actually did a thing. And so fans started coming back, but the team was in such a state. They had some players in there already, but they was in such a state that nobody expected them to be where they are right now. A lot of people keep asking me like, wow, what an amazing team. I was like, well, it didn't happen right away. Will Kuntz, who came in, he was formerly with LAFC. When he first started, I think professionally, he was with the Yankees. And then he mentioned that his dream job was to work as a GM for the LA Galaxy. And at that time, Chris Klein and the powers that be said, no, we don't want you. So he went to LAFC, and you saw what he did with them. So then was Chris Klein out of the picture, they brought him in, and he started cooking. A lot of people call him Chef Kuntz. So he started cooking, started bringing in all these different pieces. And, Chicharito's contract ran out. They didn't renew it. Obviously, he's been dealing with a lot of injuries. But they started, just revamping the entire roster and bringing in depth pieces and some players that were misfits, like John Nelson, for example. And little by little, under everyone's noses, they started putting this thing together. And a lot of people, God, I wish I could remember what film it was. But a lot of people it's kind of like the ugly duckling in those rom-coms, right? Where like you have the nerdy girl, right, who's who looks all frumpy and whatever, and then at the end of the movie, the guy is waiting for her to come down the stairs so they can go to prom, and it's this gorgeous woman coming down the stairs, and it's like, where the hell have you been all along? You've been there the whole time. You just needed a little bit of makeup, a little bit of a little hair, hair job, whatever, but. Yeah, that's what it feels like. I keep telling people this team is ahead of the curve. This is supposed to be a rebuilding year, so a lot of Galaxy fans feel very grateful to be where they are, especially after the last 10 years. Don't believe anybody that comes forward with a lot of bravado, saying that they were gonna smash someone. That's not our real Galaxy fans. The real Galaxy fans that know, the ones that like have been through all this, they have looked at every opponent that's coming along and they're like, we got to take the guys seriously because we can't take anything for granted after everything we've been through. So Red Bull steps up and everybody's just like, yeah, it's another obstacle. Hopefully the team overcomes it. Losing Ricky Puig hurts, but let's go, baby. Let's go. East Coast versus West Coast. I'm excited.
So
I think that's
Bob,
also recapping the synopsis of She's All That, the movie. I think that's Freddie Prince's.
There you go.
I think that's his first credit since the Scooby-Doo movie, so I did not have that on my bingo card for today.
So Bob, you talk about how scrappy the Red Bulls are, and a team that nobody, looking at the record and nobody really was like, took you guys seriously, right?
Sure.
What can you say about Carlos Coronel being that fulcrum right there for the scrappiness of the team?
Yes. So Coronel, being a goalie is really hard, right? Because when they try to play out the back and he makes a little error, it's all of a sudden he's the worst goalkeeper, get him off the team. At the end of last year, I think he had 2 of those errors and we were ready to ship him off, goodbye, you got to go. And it's funny how, a couple penalty saves, stuff like that, it'll get you in your way. He's just a guy. He's yelling out there every second. He's getting involved. He's in the middle of every scrum. So yeah, I think that kind of does go that way. But I think until this current playoffs, he was only seen as like a league average guy. He first came in was spectacular a few games, but that's the way it goes. That's the goalie's life. You make a penalty save in a game, everyone's here, you're the best goalie anyone's ever seen, and then some bad footwork puts you in the doghouse. So I don't think the rest of Red Bull's faithful sees Carlos Coronel as some kind of brick wall by any means, because he's made so many mistakes. He's lost games with his feet before, but in this current run, yes, he is the hero. So we're gonna put that on him. But it's very hard out there for goalkeepers, and I'm sure he'll make a couple boneheaded moves next season early. He'll be, again, we're looking at transfer market, seeing how much we can get for him.
I mean, it's funny, Bob. Sorry, guys, just to interject. It's funny listening to Bob talk about Coronel like that, because I see him as like this, like really top goalkeeper in MLS. I mean, granted, we have John McCarthy, who in our pod we've always referred to him as mid, right? Like he's mid compared to some of the better goalkeepers in MLS. And but then I look at Coronel and I'm like, damn, that's a great goalkeeper. And then I hear Bob poking holes in his game, and I'm like, it sounds like us here at NAG. We've been poking holes in Ricky Puig's game the entire time he's been here, and people are like, what are you guys crazy? You guys, are sitting on riches, and we're like, no, well, let me tell you what he's done wrong. Sorry, go ahead.
The thing is, right, is like when I see Coronel play, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy is Bob. He's gonna make a couple of boneheaded moves. He's gonna make mistakes. I'm like, oh yeah, he's like super, like he's you can get one by him. And then he has a stand-up performance against the Columbus Crew, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, great, cool. We're gonna not defend our title, and we're gonna lose to the Red Bulls. And then he makes, what was it, 3 saves in the penalty shootout?
Yeah,
3 straight saves
in a row.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there playing. I'm in the middle of a game myself, watching the TV of the bar, and I see those 3 saves. I'm like, well, for fuck's sake, this guy has just shut me up. He's actually a pretty damn good goalkeeper.
Yeah, he has the second lowest saves in Major League Soccer. Red Bull has 83. That's tied for lowest with Sporting KC. So you only make the highlight reel two ways as a goalie, and one's really good and one's really bad. So he's been incredible so far. He studies. He knows the book. You step up to that spot. He knows which way you're going. He knows which way your mama went. He knows which way your grandfather went. He knows your history. He's gonna know. So I think that kind of brings an extra layer, and I think in the playoffs, teams should have gotten that report and maybe gone a little heavier, to take a game back home. Maybe in maybe in a 3-game series, just a theory. Maybe you should have gone a little harder to open them up a little earlier.
Really quick, Bob, Jared, before you get to Edgar, Bob, what did his shirt say? Because I still don't know. Cornell, after 3 saves, he lifted up his shirt and it was okay. I didn't know if he knew or not.
No idea. No clue.
So, Edgar, you talk about how 12 months ago you guys didn't expect to be here. Now, I remember on one of our shows, me and Tyler, we were picking, just going through and saying what teams could come out of each conference. And after seeing that Miami game, I kept, each week I kept picking, LA Galaxy to win, their games because I saw something, for them to be able to hang 90 minutes, and especially some of the officiating was in favor of Miami.
Oh yeah,
and you could clearly, tell, but for them to hang and draw 2-2, with Inter Miami first game of the year, and it's just like. I saw Joseph Panstrel, Puig was, those two were a dynamic. And then I saw everybody else, and I'm just like, and Gabriel Peck, I'm like, okay, there's something special there. And I'd rather see them come out of the West than, the pretend black and gold, your neighbors to the South. But what can you say? There was that little slump where you guys, were top of the West, and you guys, fell about that slump. What was the catalyst for the turnaround?
Well, one of the things that, excuse me, one of the things that we've been that we did at our podcast. Hey, love to Nick out there at Glass House, baby. One of the things that we did in our pod at the start of the season, just like you guys, and we sat there and we looked at the schedule and we looked at the roster and we're like, all right, let's see, we're gonna win this, but we're definitely gonna lose this match and this one and this one. Oh, that's a draw. And so we had lowered expectations, right? Now, as the season wore on and we started seeing them win games that we didn't think they were gonna win, we started slowly to believe, that things were different. But that was one of the things that we noticed. I'm sorry. Can you repeat your question one more time? Because I kind of got lost in my own head right here.
What was the catalyst? You guys went from first, and I think dropped down. Lowest was like 5th, and then fought your way back up to the top 4.
Well, one of the things that LA Galaxy have not been able to do under Greg Vanney the entire time he's been here is win more than 2 matches in a row. It was like this running joke where Galaxy wins a game, they win the second game. They're gonna definitely lose the next one, or they're gonna get a draw because they ain't gonna get that third one. And so, we were keeping an eye on that, and we were like, "Wow, man, that Greg Vanney's cursed, right?" And all this stuff happens to him, whenever we get to a third game. But there wasn't like a real horrible dip. I know at one point they went without winning for a while. And so people were like, "Well, this is it. The ceiling's about to fall on this team. It was good, but they were playing much more than anybody expected, and they're about to fall back down to earth." And they kind of did for a bit, but then they started to come together. And this is where I mentioned the depth earlier. This team has not had a deep bench in a really, really long time. And whenever somebody would get hurt or somebody was unavailable for, whatever reason, somebody on the bench would step up. And we're talking about players like Diego Fagundes, Mark Delgado. These are guys that you go to any other MLS team and they're probably a starter. I know the guys at Austin still miss Diego Fagundes and they wish he was still there. And so well, you look at the bench and you're like, wow, we have these guys. But another one of the biggest things that the team had going against them was that the defense, which had been the team's biggest weakness for so long, it seemed like they were finally gonna figure things out. But every time, it seemed like almost every time the opposition would set up a set piece, they were gonna score, and that was one of the biggest issues with this team at the start of the season. And
Say that again, please. Just
the set pieces. Really bad on set pieces. And they kind of figured it out in the middle of the season. And then it kind of reared its head again toward the end. And people were like, no, I thought we were going to this. So going into that match against Seattle, we had heard about how like they had scored the most goals on set pieces. And oh my God, they're really good. And so everybody was just like, oh man, this is where, this is scary. And they held their own. But that wasn't something that was a quick solve because they required Galaxy to go out and get a loan for a center back that we got way back in March, but did not actually really start to play until September, and that's in Miro Garces. So, yeah.
Edgar, just how bad is it that Ricky Pooch is not going to be able to play on Saturday?
Well, right off the bat, I think it's an emotional thing because during this entire rebuild, he's kind of been the centerpiece, right? When he came into the team, when he first joined LA Galaxy on that free loan from Barcelona, a lot of people questioned, like, wow, how do we get this guy? Well, Barcelona was going through some financial issues, and so they let him go on a free, on just actually, it wasn't even a free loan, it's like a free transfer. Just let him go. So at the time, he just did not fit in at Barcelona. He was coming, he's a product of La Masia. LA Galaxy had a player named Victor Vasquez at the time, who was also Spaniard, who was also a product of La Masia. And so he kind of convinced Ricky Puig to come over. He said, hey, you're going to be all right. So they brought him over. And right off the bat, you realize, hey, this kid is something special. So they started building around him. And little by little, the team started to come together around him. And they started adding pieces to work with him, but it didn't happen right away. Like I said, they're still trying to land that big name, right, to come in, and put butts in the seats. But once Klein was out and Kuntz came in, they started looking for players that would fit in that dynamic, but not just that dynamic. Make sure that they play what's called Vanny ball, right? It's like it's possession oriented, attacking. Try to keep the team off balance by pushing up the wings, and then trying to hit them with with precision passes. And so, where do you get these players? Well, maybe they tried to get somebody like a Rusnak, and they couldn't, right? Then they said, Dejan Jovalic has been saying forever that he is the future of this club. Well, he had a really awful 2023, and he didn't step up like a lot of people expected him to. So is he going to be back? We lost Tyler Boyd, who a lot of people thought had really acclimated with the club and had to build some kind of synergy with Ricky Puig. So he was gone. He went to Nashville. But then they brought in Joseph Paintsil. They brought in Gabriel Peck. And with Paintsil, I had seen him play in AFCON, so I kind of had an idea of what he was like, and I was like, this guy is good. You can go back in my Twitter. I said, if Galaxy gets this guy, they're going to have one of the most potent offenses in MLS. You go back, way back to January. I posted that on Twitter. And then with Gabriel Peck, I'd never heard of him. I have a friend, he's a Galaxy fan, big, bad Galaxy fan, named Leonardo. Shout out to Leonardo. He lives down in Brazil, and so I contacted him, asked him, hey, can you tell me about Gabriel Peck? Vasco da Gama player. He says, this guy is amazing. He's got a lot of skills. He has a lot of flair. He's very driven. He's not the kind of guy that you bump him, he'll take a dive. He'll keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And he almost single-handedly kept Vasco da Gama from like dipping too far in the Brazilian league. He helped them stay afloat and become successful again. So he's like, you guys got a good player there. And so all these things, right? All these little things started to come together from here. And then the depth of the team started to really shine as the season wore on. But the biggest test was when Ricky got hurt in the middle of the season, right? So people are like, wow. So you have this guy, he's talented. Yeah, he makes mistakes. but he's the centerpiece of this offense. What's gonna happen? Well, you know what happened? For the first time since Greg Vanney was coach of the Galaxy, this team went on to win more than 2 games in a row. In fact, they won 4 games in a row, and they did not lose until Ricky Puig rejoined the starting lineup. That's football for you.
So it sounds like the Galaxy are better off when Ricky Puig is hurt.
Oh no. That's the thing. And I was in a I mean, it's something that's really it's so weird heading into this game. I don't know what to expect because like I said, this was in the middle of the season, right? And they won 4 games. They lost a stinker in Chicago, which I remember like Nick probably still loves right to this day, the Glass House Soccer buddy. But they lost a stinker in Chicago, and then they won 4 matches in a row. They took out Kansas City, they took out the Pigeons, RSL, and the Smurfs, and then they placed LAFC at the Rose Bowl match, and they lost. And Ricky Puig did not look good in that match at all. And so, but at that point, one of the things that he was doing for the longest time was trying to play hero ball. He was trying to do everything on his own. He was go all the way to the back and try to carry the ball all the way back up to the front. And while he was gone, the Galaxy players kind of played a bit more conservatively, a bit more defensively, and they started to pass the ball around among themselves. And this is the time when Gabriel Peck really began to shine, because before Puig would not look for him. He just wouldn't, and if he did give him the ball, he was already like in the corner. So then Puig started. I mean the players Fagundes, Mark Delgado, Edwin Cerrillo started getting the ball more and more to Gabriel Peck out to the wings, and this is when Gabriel Peck really took off. So Vanney looked at Puig and was like, huh, see, look, it works. And so from that point on, Ricky Puig was like, all right, I'm gonna buy into the system, and that's when things really, really got better for the LA Galaxy.
Are you sure it's not when Marco Royce came?
Well, that's the thing, right? I'm not sure, Bob. Maybe I don't know how closely you follow the LA Galaxy, Bob, but one of the things that we kept mentioning about Ricky Puig was like he keeps trying to do everything on his own, and he feels like he has to put everything on his shoulders, and sometimes you could see that he's kind of frenetic on the field. Having Marco Royce join the team kind of give him a sense of calm, because Royce would bring a calming presence to the club and on the field. And all of a sudden, Ricky Puig did not feel like he had to do everything. And then, like I said, he started buying into Vanney's system. And all these things started to fall into place. And this is where Marco Royce's presence isn't felt so much in the score sheet, but just within the atmosphere of the locker room and the temperament of the players on the field, where he's like, all right, guys, calm down. Kind of like a Joe Montana. I don't know if you guys are old enough to know about Joe, but Joe Montana, his teammates were all nervous. He, get them all in the huddle. Like, all right, guys, let's do this. We got to make this play, and it's going to happen. That's what they call him, Cool Head Joe, right? Yeah, and so that's what Marco Royce did for this club, in case you're wondering. But yeah, Bob, did you notice any difference? I just want to know, because out here in the West, we're looking at him, but when Royce joined the team, did you notice any difference in Ricky Puig?
I can't say that I have. I mean, he looked just as frenetic last game as he ever did. And I won't forget in Minnesota when they were up like 4-1-2 on him, he's still running around like a chicken without a head. And then I'll never forget, like, they were up by all those goals. Minnesota managed to put a little possession together. He chased someone down in midfield, won the ball. The teammates all stopped, turned, and clapped at him. Like, was that needed? Probably not. It probably wasn't necessary, but it's nice that he put that effort in. I am also kind of wondering how his absence is going to affect the team, because I believe I had heard that other teams, other places he had played in the past had some maybe like character issues or locker room issues. I get nothing but positive from his time in LA, so I don't know if those have gone away or we're just not hearing about them. But I see him like in the tunnel in that Ricky Ricardo double-breasted white blazer. If I sit in my sleep, and that's kind of the flair that he brings on the field. It's the hair, it's the whole thing. It's just it's one package. And one game, I'm gonna have to talk about how that affects this match in particular. But MLS is worse that he's hurt for the next 8 months. However long it takes him to to get back to healthy, and it's that's a shame, but it's very interesting to me. Is that going to be a detriment, or is that going to be a positive? Because Red Bull can shut players like that down. I subscribe to the Bill Belichick theory of like, take out the best weapon. I guess that's Peck now, but you're not going to leave the other side exposed. I would have rather had that target on Puja's back for this match, to be honest. Carballo has nothing against clipping his feet out from under him. Throw Edelman, who's this lanky, tall, just shadow him, stay right on. I think that gives it the whole game kind of a different sense. I didn't notice a difference in his play, except that he got better, but it looked like he was doing the same things. I don't know. A Galaxy last year was a bad collection of really good players. This year they put it together, and I don't think that that's any one man in particular, but it's got to be a lot on Puig. He's most touches in Major League Soccer, most progressive passes in Major League Soccer, and it's not necessarily even close.
Bob, you mentioned Carballo. I'm pretty sure he missed the Orlando match, if I'm not mistaken, due to injury.
He did, yeah.
Any update on him? Do you know if he's making progression towards playing in the Cup final? What are you hearing on the New York end?
Foot injury. That's what we know. That's what we know. I assume if it was a break or something more serious, a high ankle sprain, you would get more specifics. But foot, I don't know. I don't even know what foot means. Like, is in my experience as a striker, as a soccer player, most foot injuries happen to be mostly pain management type things. Unless there is a fracture in there somewhere. I don't know. The MLS injury reports are notoriously bad, and the next one's going to be due like 6 a.m. on Saturday morning. I can only speculate. It could be a very serious injury. I'm not aware of that. I hear foot with no other knowledge. If you told me a soccer player picked up a foot, I'm going to think it's some kind of bone bruise or turf toe or broken toe, something like that, which is a pain management thing. I have no other details, and I wish I could help you because he's a huge part of this team, and he's a huge part of our success over the second half.
Sounds like the NHL with their lower body injury.
Yeah.
Right.
This half,
right?
As opposed to left half or right half, which would be even more specific.
Like they knocked the guy's head off. Upper body injury.
Really quick, Bob, how important has I think it's Reyes been for you guys? Got the goal against Orlando, I believe.
Yeah.
Just a
worst.
monster.
I think him being on the field is a worst case scenario for most Red Bull supporters. Really? He has individual moments of brilliance, but especially in a big match like this, he's just a walking card. He has no tact about him whatsoever. He very well was lucky not to get sent off in that Orlando match for, kicking a ball over his head and taking out a player's face. He has gotten, I don't know that he's gotten more red cards than anyone else on the team over the last 2 seasons, but I would not be surprised. He's a great, big physical presence. You saw what he could do with his head, although I think a lot of us could have done that with our head. The ball was just on a rope from John Tolkien. There's just no way about that. Only the place where only one guy can touch it, and I don't know how much he directed the ball as much as the ball directed his head, to be honest. Definitely a player that you'd like to have on your team, but in big moments, he's very scary. He's going to make a crazy tackle at you guys. Like, what is going to happen in this match? Like, he's getting a yellow card that is foreseen. It's just how early on is it? Can we get him subbed off before he gets the second? Obviously, huge player for this team. The back line in the playoffs has gone from a 2 center back system to a 3 center back system. Don't know where that's came from. Didn't play like that all season long, but it seems to be one of the preferred methods. Again, specifically against higher scoring opponents like in Orlando. It's very, very interesting to me. But listen, that's how we're going to win this match, right? Red Bull against Galaxy is not going to be won by the away team in open play. I don't think that that's really going to happen. It's going to happen by these little disruptions. And, Edgar will tell you, I was on a couple of podcasts with him last week, and people kept telling me like Red Bull are only good at set pieces and, transferring play, breakaways. Like, yeah, that's a phase of soccer that you need to be good at. Tell any EPL manager, hey, you can be the best team in the league in set pieces, and they sign me up. Where do I go? And I think that's how this game is going to have to be won. I had some stats from earlier this week. Red Bull number 2 in aerials won, behind only DC United with 528 aerials. I think 400 of those were Benteke. So, I don't really know who else is doing anything else, but that is a huge advantage. Not only are set pieces and the goalie advantage clear and obvious on the Red Bull side, Galaxy is dead last in the league, 262 won aerials. That is 4 less than half of what Red Bull's done this season. And you have Dylan Nealis, 81 aerials won, 75%, 4th in the league. Sean Nealis, 71 aerials won, 10th in the league. Noah Isla, 66 aerials won, and he's played like 15 games, 15th in the league. Andre Reyes, 52nd in the league with only 16 matches. He's played less than half season, 47 aerials won. These are 4 guys who play different defensive positions, different forms of center back, going up against a team who just doesn't do it. Maya Yoshida, impressive, 75 aerials won, 9th in the league. The next guy for the Galaxy is Julian Aude with 23. He's 168th. Some teams have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys in the standings before you go down to that second guy. And, I saw Andre Reyes already play, maybe it's going to be Anila's brother's time. These are big, huge guys. Maybe it's Noah Ayla's time. Maybe the kid's going to get one. I don't know, but that's the phase of play where Red Bulls can win. I watch Galaxy based on Ricky Puig passing the ball around in their own end. Red Bull wants them to please pass the ball around in your own end, and we'll see that happens because Seattle, they were pressing hard, and there were a couple real close ones. Red Bull has a more mature press than that, and they will tell you where to pass the ball, jump on that pass, and put it in the back of the net. So I think that, my job for this week was finding out how Red Bull can win. And it's not by beating them down the wings or letting playing open play, winning 4-3. That is out of the cards. What is in the cards is shutting down this defense, finding guys, finding lanes to shut down, and hitting them on a corner, hitting them from a set piece, hitting them from the air, hitting them from, a spot on the field, maybe a stoppage, a weird, a trip, and then a fast free kick, something back into the box. That's really how Red Bull's going to have to win this. So, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and that's Andre Reyes. He's the big sword in town.
You mentioned Maya Yoshida. Maya Yoshida is a very respected, over here. He's a captain of the team, obviously. Sure. Formerly played for Japan as captain as well. And he's actually been, one of the reasons the Galaxy give up so many goals on set pieces because for some reason or other, he gets flat-footed or out of position, and next thing you know, Maya Yoshida's getting dunked on. Another person who was getting dunked on, especially in the middle of the season, is my dog is playing with squeaky toy. Is Jalen Neal. Is Jalen Neal? Now we love Jalen Neal. His mom is very active in the LA Galaxy.
I talk to her all the time on Twitter. Maybe not all the time, but yeah.
What's that?
I follow his mom on Twitter. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, she's amazing. We all love Mama Neal. And so Jalen Neal is a guy that came up in the Galaxy system. A lot of people love him. At one point, especially last year in the summer, we saw him as a future player in the U.S. men's national team. I compared him to like Eddie Pope. And then he got injured, and then he suffered another injury, and then he went to another injury. So it was one thing after another, and then he started missing time with the team. And it was around this time, right, at the beginning of the season, where LA Galaxy picked up Carlos Emiro Garces, a player on loan from Deportivo Pereira in Colombia. Now, at the beginning, it was just a loan, but like not that quickly. I mean, not that short. Yeah, short after they actually turned it into a permanent. I mean, they went out and bought it. They paid for, went from a loan to a transfer, and so everybody's like, oh, cool. We picked up a center back, so that way we could put him in there. Everybody was hoping he'd be in there for the first Old Trafford goal at the start of the season, and nope, he wasn't there. And time went on, and it was like, we have a center back, right? That's in the waiting in the wings, and who is this guy? And it was like, did we really pick up somebody? Are you sure that did we imagine this? It was like a running joke, right? And then we finally saw him get 1 minute, like in the middle in the summertime. We're like, oh, so he does exist. I forgot we had this guy. And then he got like 15 minutes, right? And then he actually played 90 minutes in one of the League's Cup matches, and everybody was really impressed with him. Just the way his presence, he's fearless, and no, I mean, not to bash on Jalen Neal, but it's something that we hadn't seen in Jalen Neal, who was not the same. It's just the truth. He had not been the same since coming back from his injury, and so it was after he. I mean, if you go back and you look at the match at the Rose Bowl, Kai Kamara completely went Vince Carter on Jalen Neal. It was pretty ugly, and we saw more of that as the season went on, and people still love Jalen Neal, but they were like, yeah, something's wrong there, you know. And then finally, after like a bad performance late in the season, I can actually tell you, it was after a game in Portland. Galaxy was like, you know what? At the end of the match, Galaxy was losing 4-2. Vanny subbed in Garces for Jalen Neal, and since then, Garces has been the starter. And since he's been the starter, Galaxy have only lost one match, and that was losing at the death against Houston on decision day. He seemed just like a much more complete, more polished, mature, more rugged, more gritty, speedier player than Jalen Neal. I'm sure Jalen Neal at one point will end up, back in that back line alongside Garces, because Yoshida's not going to be there forever. But what we have right now with Garces, a lot of people in the league haven't really taken notice yet. He is good. This guy is the real deal. This guy is tough as nails, and you could tell because of his time playing in the Colombian league. And he is somebody that I'm guessing right now Red Bull is looking at and saying, we have to keep an eye on this guy because he's not Jalen Neal. He's not Eric Zavaleta. He is somebody different that we have to scout very well, because he could be a big difference in how this match goes. Just a good, well-rounded center back. Sorry.
Good. You're good.
So speaking of the center back play and all that, Edgar, what's the keys for LA to topple the Red Bulls and clip their wings and get their 6th title?
Wow. I think from the start of this of the playoffs, one of the things that we've been saying is, if LA Galaxy can score early, and then things are gonna be looking good for them. And the guy who usually scores early and gets things cooking for this team is Gabriel Peck. I'll mention that one more time, Gabriel Peck, who I refer to as MV Peck. When you talk about LA Galaxy, the first thing that pops up is probably Ricky Puig, right? And what he can do. Those of us that have been paying attention to this team, we love Puig and for what he does for his club, but there are many times when defenses would hover around him and try to shut him down, and they would really muck things up for him. And then all of a sudden, you see this guy running up the wing, and the ball somehow gets to him, and he goes on, takes a defender one-on-one, or he just gets in the open space, and he drills one in. And more often than not, it's Gabriel Peck. He was the catalyst. He was the catalyst right down the middle. You go back and look at his numbers. He scored so many goals, so many important goals for his team, especially like early in matches. And so if LA Galaxy has a chance of winning or beating the Red Bulls, they have to get Peck involved right off the bat. There was also a question about Joseph Paintsil. Joseph Paintsil, I went and did the research because at one point he looked thoroughly fatigued. And I went back and did the research, and this guy has been playing football nonstop for 20 months. 20 months. You look at him, and he's had at least a full match for like the last 20 months, whether it was for Ghana, for Genk, for the LA Galaxy, Wherever he's gone, this guy's been playing nonstop for 20 minutes, and so he looked fatigued. And people were like, "Well, he looked fantastic at the start of the season, an early MVP candidate. What happened? Well, this guy was just tired, you know." And so, kind of expectations kind of tempered with him, and then come the playoffs, all of a sudden it's like this guy found new life. Maybe it was like that long, 23 days between matches, right? That we had that break, and maybe he had time to like lie down in a bacta tank or something, right? And then they brought him back, like, come on, let's go, right? And he's been really good since then. So he's somebody else that could hurt the Red Bulls if he's given the opportunity, if he gets the passes in the right spot. That Galaxy midfield without Ricky Puig is still dangerous. Like I said, there's Edwin Cerrillo, Diego Fagundes, Gabriel. I'm not Gabriel. Yeah, Gabriel. Oh, Peck, right? No, sorry, not Peck. Oh my God, I can't think of his name. Mark Delgado, and then of course Royce, who right before going on, we got word that regarding Royce that he's getting treatment for his injury, and that they do expect him to play in this match. Whether he starts or he comes off the bench, we won't know yet. And we still got what 3-4 more days for the match. But for right now, things are looking positive that Marco Royce is going to be under. He's been dealing with a groin injury, apparently, in case you guys haven't heard. So, if you ever had a groin injury, those things are, it's not easy. It takes a while to heal, and it really limits your explosiveness. So, something to keep an eye on. But if Red Bull's going to beat the Galaxy, like Bob said, oh, God, those set pieces, and with a real hot goalkeeper in Coronel, one of the things that this team has suffered for the longest time is scoring penalty kicks. They can't find anybody who can score penalty kicks like on a constant basis. Like, it's kind of like by committee. Okay, next one up. All right, he scores one. Okay, come on the next match. No, you missed one. Okay, you step up. No, he missed one too. Ricky Puig has failed. Joveljic has failed. Peck has failed. Paintil has failed. So it's like, who the hell is going to score penalties for this team? So hopefully this game does not go into like extra time, and then we had the penalties, because you're going to hear like a collective groan from everybody that's a Galaxy fan at that stadium.
I'm just going to say this, possession based schemes for teams have not fared well against the Red Bull. And, we all know Nancy Ball was put on, Nancy put it, on there with his possession. And, you see what happened with Columbus and the Red Bulls, and Red Bulls high press, smack, in your face, with that press. So I don't know, Edgar, with Vanny's, possession-based offense and defensive, I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. And we saw this with Orlando. Orlando was kind of gun shy with taking that shot because they didn't want the corner. They wanted the better shot on net. And we saw them dancing around, and, Torres missed one, shot it right at the goalkeeper. You had to do better there. But I think that kind of lends to Red Bull's plan. I talked about aerials, and people always think of just corner kicks and set pieces. The most chances for aerials you'll have in a match is the goaltender, kicking it upfield. And Red Bull, they will take the shot and deflect it off your shin. They will shoot knowing it's going to hit you in the shins, go out of bounds, take the corner, take the play over there. Or even better, if it just misses everyone completely, now the goalkeeper has a choice. Now McCarthy's got to either distribute the ball upfield to someone who's going to lose an aerial or play out the back. And Red Bull wants that to happen. So I think that there are certainly ways that Red Bull can win this match. I've talked on multiple podcasts this week about how Red Bull can win. I think it's a good 50% chance Galaxy wins outright. Maybe 35% chance Red Bull wins outright, and a 15% chance at, going to penalties or going to overtime. I'm kind of forced to make the case for Red Bull because very few people were earlier in this week. But Red Bull has made every team play the way Red Bulls wanted to play. They forced their style on every team in the playoffs so far. They've beaten some of the best teams in Major League Soccer. It wasn't just in the playoffs. We beat Cincinnati twice this season. We took it to other playoff teams, and we've been very threatening in those situations. Very few games. Red Bull was not very good in a lot of games. They had a ton of draws, but they were in games. They weren't blown out, minus a game here or there. And if you look at the Galaxy, I wanted Galaxy to go out last week and punch Seattle in the mouth. I wanted them to win 4-1, make a definitive statement. Galaxy had to play Seattle's game, and I think that's how you win. It's going to be the team who has the more dominant game script. And if you look at Galaxy, on the road, they lost to Dallas, Houston, Austin, LAFC. Those are all defensive teams. Drew Seattle, drew Charlotte, systematically good, sound defensive teams. So I think that we know how we can win this match. I think Sandro Schwartz is going to the well right now. He's now my dog's acting up. Going to the best of. And when it comes down to it, I think
LAFC. Sorry, my dog always barks when I say LAFC.
Could be. The one thing that I don't like about this match now is that Red Bull had the first adjustment to be made. You knew how Galaxy was going to come out in the MLS Cup if Puig was healthy, and Red Bull would have to come up with a game plan, and then at halftime, it was going to be on Vanny. Now, Vanny has all week to do whatever he's going to do. And I don't think Diego Fagundez is going to step in, and obviously he can't be anywhere near Ricky Puig. He can't handle the ball as much. He doesn't have the energy or the skill, let's be honest. I think he's done very well this season, and that's not a knock on him. There's 7 billion other people on the planet that don't have the skill Ricky Puig has with the ball at his feet. But I think there is a little bit of, like, what do they maybe is it more like a 4-2-2-2 kind of situation? Who's on wing, and then you see these guys switch, and Peck and Paintsel are on the wrong side of the field. Now it's in Vanny's hand to come out with something new. And it's Sandro who has to make the adjustment at halftime. That hasn't happened yet in the postseason. So that kind of gives me a little bit of hesitation. Not that I think that Galaxy are better off with Ricky Puig. I don't want anyone to be, considering that even remote possibility. But I think from a coach's game plan, now it's up to Red Bull to make the adjustment at halftime and not the Galaxy.
You made a good point there, because I'm wondering the same thing. Like, what kind of a Galaxy team are we going to see on Saturday? Because I remember
a losing one.
Hey, you never know. I mean, one of the things that we saw when Puig was out was that everything was going through Ricky Puig, right? And then all of a sudden, he's not there. So it's like there's this vacuum there. So what's going to happen? So whoever was in the midfield, it was the bubbles moving around a lot more. And there was more dynamic attack where you didn't know which way they were going to go. And this is where I said, this is where Gabriel Peck started feasting, because all of a sudden they started hitting him on the wings. And another thing that we noticed was that they would bring Paintsel in kind of shadow Gabriel Peck. And all of a sudden, you see Peck coming up, and right behind him, here comes Paintsel. So they would kind of rotate. And it was like, what is this? This is fascinating. And
I still have to go to a depth chart I made preseason to know who's the actual left winger and who's the right winger.
Yeah. So it's you as a Galaxy fan, we're watching it like, wow, this is incredible. We did not see this before. Wow, this is different. This is really exciting, right? So then the thought was like, I wonder how Ricky Puig is gonna fit into this scheme when he comes back, and if he's gonna buy into it. And it didn't happen right away, but when he did, this is the Galaxy team that you've seen for the last couple months. Now you take him out, and it's like, what's going to happen? So it's an enigma.
Really quick, I don't know if you guys saw combined Andrew Evy's combined 11 for MLS Cup. Obviously, Cornell and net, Tolkien on the left back. Yoshida Nilis holding down the center back. Midfield obviously is a very strong midfield. Paintsel, Forsberg, Peck with Jovic up top. Just really quick 3-word thoughts on this.
Bob.
Okay.
Or
Yeah. Those things are all fine. Maybe there could have been even more Galaxy players from the 15 goals they scored on Colorado. So yeah, I'm okay with that. We knew there was going to be no Red Bull striker up on top of that. The wingers are good. Forsberg is the best number 10 still available for this matchup. Defense, I'm not quite sure I agree with, but since Red Bull switched to a 3 center back line, I guess Tolkien's been kind of lining up in midfield anyway. So, first of all, I think it's a hell of a combined 11. I should start there first. And, Forsberg is a guy we haven't even talked about yet. Maybe very, very early on, what he adds to the team. He's not going to dance around with the ball like Paintsil, but he directs. He is the orchestrator 100% of this attack. I would have Lewis Morgan up there somewhere, but yeah, there's no one I would move. That's how it is. There's 5 names I would add and no one I would take out. It's better than the MLS Best 11, which had 3 defenders, 4 midfielders, and 4 attackers.
Yeah, like what the fuck was that?
No, Mickey Yaman has been another guy that joined the team at the start of the season. Like, people talk about Paintil and Peck. Yamane was the third one that joined the team, and he had that experience of playing with Maya Yoshida for the Japanese national team. And he came in, and he's been very exciting to watch. He will attack if given the chance, and he'll knock some shots across into the box. But one of the reasons that a lot of people were kind of not upset, but they were it kind of tarnished his image a little, is like in the middle of the season. Sorry, there's noise over here. In the middle of the season, one of the reasons that Neil was having issues was because Yamane would go up the pitch, and then there was a counter, and then he would run back and didn't get back in time, and then Neil was caught by himself, and he would get eaten alive. Yeah. But one of the 4 things that you'll hear about Yamane, and from not just us at News Across the Galaxy, but other podcasts that cover the Galaxy, is that he's very coachable. So Vanny noticed that he was having issues, spoke to him at halftime, and all of a sudden it wasn't an issue anymore. So that's one thing about Yamane. As far as Yoshida being there, I just mentioned how fantastic Garces is. I think some Galaxy fans would make the case that they would see Garces there instead of Yoshida. But Yoshida being the captain, the anchor in the back, he deserves his plaudits as well. But as far as who's like a bigger influence right now, you go back and you look at Galaxy highlights. Anytime anybody got back there or got around the wings, who was there to clean it up? Garces.
Gentlemen, this has been fun. You guys are definitely very well represented in MLS Cup. I know Red Bull FO, I think it was, bought 700 seats. Just taking the entire FO and whatnot. Wish our
that
FO
is so cool, man.
But hey, it is what it is. Edgar, obviously, you guys are going for your 6th MLS Cup, most decorated franchise in MLS, I believe. Prediction time.
Bob, want to go first?
I'm taking unders. I think there's not a whole lot of goals to be had in this match. And I think when that happens, you got to favor the away team. I already said I think Red Bull's a 50-50 shot at this. And you can get them now at like minus 110, plus 100 odds to win or draw on a double chance. And that's what I like. Part of it is drinking the Kool-Aid that I've been brought on all these podcasts to talk about why Red Bull can win. No one wants to hear me say, Galaxy's going to roll over them, right? So I might be in my own head a little bit on that one too. I see a low-scoring game. I see a game that's going to be fought, in the in-between moments. Watch the first 2 minutes of the match, the first 2 minutes of the second half, and the last, 2 minutes of each half. Watch the rest too, but you're going to see a lot of action in those in-between moments. Maybe things when you don't expect it. I think after seeing the masterclass Seattle Sounders did against this Galaxy team, and I know losing isn't normally considered a masterclass, but for what that offense has been doing for a very long time, the writing's on the wall. We know what we have to do. We just don't know if we have the team right now to do it. You talk about LA Galaxy being on in the middle of a rebuild. And I know that sounds silly to a lot of people. Like, look at how many 64 points of the regular season, but they are a few months away from being a really bad team. And, Red Bull are a few months away from being a pretty damn good team. How much does, Carballo's injury play into it? How can, the difference makers make the difference? Can Red Bull catch the best of a moment? Can Red Bull score early? That's certainly in the cards. And if that happens, then you are going to see air brakes like you have not seen before around Major League Soccer. And how is Galaxy going to break this team down? Because they've done it with their feet. They've done it with Puig, but they can't do it a lot of other ways. You're not going to expect him to run down the wing and toss a ball over the center. Joveljic I've always seen him as and I'm going to get a lot of crap for this, a league average striker who has the most opportunity in the league to do what he needs to do. This is a volume offense. So he's incredible with the goals. You can put a lot of other players there and they'll do just as good. So, I'm hoping Red Bull can come out, play a defensive game, stay away from, the sin bin. Let's not get cards early because that's going to change the game. If they're let to play, I think that Red Bull have a really good chance. It's going to be a coin toss to this one, but I will double down and say I see this game being low scoring.
Yeah, I agree with Bob as far as low scoring. A lot of people, I know I've listened to a lot of different podcasts, especially in the beginning of the weekend. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, it's going to be a high scoring match, 4-2, 3-2," and I'm like, what kind of playoffs have you been watching? I mean, LA Galaxy has a high powered offense, but you just took out the Energizer Bunny from that offense, and they got to figure out how to keep that momentum going. Seattle, the whole thing with Seattle, and we knew that going in. A lot of, not just us in the podcast, but Galaxy fans. Seattle's never easy. Seattle's not an easy team, and Brian Schmetzer has always had success against Greg Vanney. Going into that match, in all time, Vanney had only beaten Schmetzer 4 times. They had 3 draws, and then Schmetzer had 10 wins over him. And Galaxy had not defeated Seattle at home in a playoff match in 10 years. So all these things, right? And then we're on our minds, and then we knew Seattle was going to make it uncomfortable, and it was very uncomfortable. And so these are lessons that are learned, though. And the fact that LA Galaxy can win games in a high-scoring fashion, or they can win games, in a very uncomfortable, ugly fashion, these are things that you pick up and help you as you're going along this journey. The fact that Ricky Puig went down with the injury and played, injured, and even got the assist and the goal, all these things help galvanize the team and the fan base, because they feel like, wow, this guy sacrificed so much for this club to get us this far, and now he can't play. Well, let's win it for him, right? Let's show up for him. So these are all things that that to keep in mind. Now, you'll be hard pressed to find any Galaxy fan that feels that they're gonna go in there and completely dominate Red Bull. It's just that's not the way to go about the thinking. Every time Galaxy has won an MLS Cup, it has not been easy. Every single game was a struggle. Even when they beat Houston 3-1, that did not get iced until like late Robbie Keane penalty kick. But every game has been a battle, and we expect the same in this coming match. I'm gonna say it's gonna be 2-1. I think it's gonna be really tense. 2-1 Galaxy. I feel like if they can score early, it'll go a long way towards giving them a sense of confidence. But I am not gonna go here, and I'm not gonna stay on here and say that they're gonna completely drive Red Bull completely out of the game. I have a lot of respect for Red Bull. I was there for the first match in 1996 between Galaxy and the Metro Stars, and I have a soft spot in my heart for all the legacy teams. I think if Red Bull was in this match against any other club, I would be definitely rooting for them. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of people from Viking Army and from Empire SC, and hopefully sharing a few beers with them. I just think it's awesome that we have this beautiful MLS family, and as a legacy club, especially you guys, running this pod with the original club, Thank you so much. And Bob, it's been an honor to be on here with you, man.
Thank you guys so much for joining in. Hopefully, he's trying to get the.
There we go.
Thanks, guys, for joining us. Looking forward to hearing the other podcasts you guys are going to be on throughout the week, and obviously looking forward to the game on Saturday. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been the Wisemen Say podcast, powered by Yamo Media. Ty Fisher alongside Jerald Lucas, Bob, and Edgar. I don't even remember how we signed off. Oh yeah, Jerald. After this, she goes. Wisemen Say.
Only fools rush in.
Peace out, everybody. Have a good week. Stay safe, stay hydrated, stay cool. Go Crew.
Stay wise and salute to 25.
Save the crew. And Wu-Tang for life.